from Studio 1A in Snowflake Village. You're listening to God Bless Kentucky.
All right, and welcome to the show. All right, welcome to the show. And today it is now April 14th, 2017. Another day in the life and Trump hell, I guess, as you might say. And I'd like to welcome everybody to our show today. We have Dana,
Hello.
We have Sunny, and today we have Julie Martinez, who will be coming in, and we'll be talking with her a little bit about some of the grassroots uprisings that's been happening in central Kentucky and throughout the area. So I hope you enjoy the show, and we'll be right back. Do you want quality home-cooked meals with the family, but don't have time to go to the grocery store? Well, Blue Apron can help you solve that problem. The folks at Blue Apron provide a quick and easy way to make high-quality meals that the whole family can enjoy. Blue Apron is a fresh ingredient recipe delivery service that helps chefs of all levels create incredible meals right in their own kitchen. They take care of the menu planning and all the shoppings, while you provide the great, delicious food on your table. So if you're interested in locally sourced ingredients, pre-measured quantities, and a delicious meal, give Blue Apron a try. Just go to podblesskentucky.com and click on the link and enjoy a delicious meal with very little stress. All right, we're back. We're talking with Julie Martinez, a grassroots organizer with Together We Will Bluegrass. She's also worked with a coalition of different organizations throughout Kentucky to kind of draw all these great influences and trying to make a change in our political lives. I'd like to welcome Julie to the show.
So glad to be here. Thank you so much for having me.
So you're tied with Together We Will. Can you tell me a little bit about Together We Will?
Yeah. So we're a new organization. We started right after the election as a Facebook group, which is a new way that organizations are being started in this digital age that we're living in now. What happened was right after the election, there were a number of us that were part of other Facebook groups that were commiserating. We had been people who had been supporting, a lot of us had been supporting Hillary Clinton, and were pretty disappointed in the election results. Disappointed is probably a really light term. Devastated, barely able to get out of bed, maybe would be a better way to put it. And as particularly here in Kentucky, feeling really alone and not really sure what to do, because it really felt like to us, at least to me, that it was more than just it wasn't just that my candidate didn't win. Had it been another year when, okay, the Republican candidate that I wasn't very excited about won, okay, all right, 4 years from now, we'll try again.
Yeah, we can move on from this.
We can move on, whatever. It was a lot more than that, and I think sometimes people didn't quite understand that. It was a bigger deal than that. So we were looking for people to commiserate with. I started a Facebook group basically thinking, hey, let's get together, have some beers, cry in our beer together, thinking maybe, I don't know, 10, 20 people would maybe join it, and maybe 5 of us would go have a beer, get coffee together.
How many folks do you have right now?
4,500.
4,500 people.
Yes, joined eventually. The first meeting that we had 60 people at the coffee shop that we eventually set it up at that weekend. So I started that Facebook group thinking, again, a couple people would join it. Hundreds of people started joining the Facebook group. So fast, like I couldn't add them fast enough to the Facebook group. I literally was up overnight trying to add people to this Facebook group because there was just that many people. There was that kind of swell of people that were just looking for the same thing that I had been looking for, and the other people who jumped on board, wanting to be part of this. And it was all this, we were all looking for the same thing. What are we going to do? How are we going to handle this? And it quickly went from crying and let's cry in our beers together to let's do something. And that has always been my interest, in what I wanted to do was I didn't want to just get stuck in that, let's cry over it. I wanted to move forward into action. Let's do something. Let's change things. Let's move forward together.
Okay. So, you have this large group that's supporting you, and you're seeing a great, there's always been that whenever there's a large group involved, they start saying, okay, you're getting paid for this, right?
Yeah, I'm waiting on the check. Haven't gotten one yet. Yeah, so
I understand it's a $1,500 check.
Oh man, I would love that. Yeah, so there's been a lot of conversation. I guess somebody's decided that those of us who've gone out to some protests have gotten paid for that. No. There's been no checks. Some of us went to D.C. to be part of the Women's March. Some of us participated in the one that was in Lexington, here in Kentucky, or in Louisville, and some of the other locations. And we've been part of some of the protests that have happened also here in Lexington on different events, on different days that have been going on. None of us have gotten any kind of paychecks. That'd be awesome. If somebody were paying us, wouldn't that be great? That'd be so cool. Not happening.
The idea of grassroots is built upon that it's from their bottom up, and
right.
And you're not getting much help. And these are the true voice of the people of our area.
Right.
And it's kind of ironic because we're in such a red state that we're getting that many people to come out to different events. I know last Wednesday was the Andy Barr's little pay for play kind of meeting, and there was a large group out at Triangle Park in Lexington.
Yeah. So that was an event that we at Together We Will Bluegrass co-sponsored with Indivisible Bluegrass, which is the local Indivisible group that a lot of people have heard about, the Indivisible groups that have also popped up around the country. So we co-sponsored that event with them that they organized. And basically Andy Barr was coming to do a speak at a luncheon that was going to be there. My understanding was the tickets were $55 a person. Dang. Wow. I don't have $55 to pay to go to lunch to hear the guy that represents me talk, right? I don't have $55 to do that.
I don't know many people who have that. The common person just doesn't have that in their income. They don't have
that money. Now, he did do a free event a few weekends ago, I think, down in Richmond. He did a coffee, I guess, like a Wednesday morning. I work. I can't go to something at 8 o'clock in the morning.
Didn't he do that was that free event down in Richmond? It was in direct. He actually was invited to
in Lexington. To a town hall in Lexington. Didn't show up for it. Instead, he planned his own event in Richmond. So there was no way you could go to both of them.
Right.
Didn't go to the one that he was invited to. Right.
And actually planned over top of it. So, like,
after the other one.
The original one, I believe it was planned by Dan Wu. Am I right?
Mm-hmm. It was the Empty Suits event that was planned here in Lexington.
And he planned it first, and then Andy Barr just kind of went, meh.
Yeah, no, I'll plan this other event that's 45 minutes away. So you can go to that one instead if you want to see me. So then he's doing this one in Lexington, $55 a ticket if you want to get in. I don't have that kind of money. So in Triangle Park, we co-sponsored this event with Indivisible Bluegrass. And just to bring a presence to that space and say, hey, you know what, Andy Barr, it would be great if you would recognize that you represent everybody in this area. You don't just represent the people who voted for you. You don't represent just the people who can pay $55 to go into this luncheon and talk to you, or the people who are able to actually go to this one little event that you can do here, or this one other event over here. But you represent everybody here, and we would like you to talk to us and actually hear our concerns about what's going on. Because we've been saying, hey, we're really concerned about healthcare. We're really concerned about these other things. And he's just following right along on Trump's coattails, right? Everything. He has voted right in single line, every single thing that Trump's doing, not listening to the concerns about Kentucky at all. And so that's what we want to do. Now, I have a full-time job, right? I'm a mom. I have a full-time job. I don't have time. I'm not a paid protester. So I just went down on my lunchtime, right? I walked down. It's close to where I work. So I just said, hey, anybody, if you want to join me, there was others who were able to be there longer than I was. Just walked down on my lunchtime, and I was able to stand down there in Triangle Park I had actually 3 people who also work with me that we all walked down together on our lunch break and just joined the group that was already down there. And that's who was there. It was people like me, other moms, some retired folks, grandmothers.
Did anybody even see him? Like,
not to my
his
knowledge.
car speed by?
Not to my
anything?
knowledge. You know, and I was thinking as I was standing there on the corner, you know, and we have people driving by. There's people driving by honking at us, you know, we're waving at us, you know, they're giving us some support as they're going by. It was the day, there was a bunch of kids who were doing a field trip. I think it was some kind of a STEM maybe field trip going on there by Rupp Arena. So there's lots of kids who are kind of coming through. Later, one of the ladies in our group actually commented on one of the pictures that I posted in our group and said her son had actually been there and saw our protest going on. And he got so excited about it, he called his mom and said, "Hey, they're down here protesting Andy Marr."
Oh, wow.
He got all
fantastic.
excited about it.
That is. I know that together we will have been with other activities as well. I know when the Women's March happened, they had a large group that participated in that.
Yes. So that was an amazing experience for me. Now, we had some people who actually got to go to D.C. and experience being in D.C. And for me, though, I debated because I thought about going to D.C. but I decided to stay here and participate in the one in my hometown because I wanted my kids to be part of it, and I decided I wanted to be part of it in my town. And you know what? That was the first true protest I had ever actually done. Because I'm not a lifetime activist. I've not really been involved in political activism before. This is something that kind of sprang out of me because that's how moved I was by this election and by what happened. And so, you know, I went to that experience. We had a bunch of our group, so we set up a place to all meet together. All of us came. You know, I think they were expecting that day in Lexington. I think they had expectations of maybe 1,300 people showing up. They did not plan, they didn't even plan to block the streets. They were just going to do it in the courthouse lawn and then have us walk along the sidewalks. So many people showed up, they had to close the roads because the people were just blocking the roads. So in the end,
an estimate on how many?
They said in the end, I heard estimates anywhere from 5,000 to 10,000.
That's what I had heard.
Yeah. Yeah, and it was, you know, it was an amazing experience. In my life, I would say it's in one of those top 10 kind of experiences of my life, of just this moment of walking through the streets of my hometown owning this moment of my life of saying, you know what, I'm taking back my government, my city, my life, and saying, you know what, we need to own this. This needs to be ours. And we need to be responsible for our own government and not just abdicate that to other people. Not say, you know what, okay, I'm going to go vote every 2-4 years, gonna do my little part. You know, I always voted, always did my thing, but it needs to be more than that. And I was abdicating my responsibility beyond that, and it wasn't enough. And I'm done with that, and I won't do that anymore. And that's what that day meant to me.
We all learned our lesson on that, didn't we?
We did.
And I know TWW has some things coming up. I know real soon is the March for Science with Trent Garrison and his group.
Yes.
So they're very active with that. So not only have you done stuff in the past, you have stuff that's happening in the future. I know that there's a lot of different ways through grassroots getting out there and showing more than just going out and protesting. Mm-hmm. One of the key instruments of actually getting people to start seeing things that matter is through going out and doing social justice or social activism. And I know that your group is working with different groups on that front as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's really important that we also connect with organizations that are already working in our community. And from the very beginning, one of the biggest values that we have had is that we weren't trying to start something new in the sense of creating things that already existed. What we wanted to do is connect with organizations that were already doing good work in our community, because we know that there have been people who have been giving their all for years and years doing great things in the community, and they need our support and they need us to get behind them and support what they're doing. And so we've worked very hard to connect with people who are working with certain demographics and certain minority groups that are being targeted by policies by this administration. We've connected with groups that include like Muslims that are being targeted. We've been working with local mosque groups. We've been working with groups that work with migrants, with Hispanic communities, that type of thing, other religious groups in our communities, because these are the people who are being targeted by policies. And we'll continue to do those types of things because those are really important for us to learn more about them, what they need. But we don't want to presume that we somehow know what they need or presume that we can solve any kind of problems for them. We just want to support them in what they're already trying to do. And so that's been an important value for us, is to just connect with other groups, try to support what they need, ask them how we can help them, and continue to learn about them and how we can do better. And also just try to educate the members of our group, and then also more of the general public as well, by just providing opportunities. So one of the things that we did is we set up an opportunity for our members to get to go to a local mosque, and the members there were very gracious to us. They hosted us, enabled us to come in, experience being in the mosque, learning about Islam, getting to meet some of their members, and just having that opportunity to meet our Muslim neighbors and learn more about what that means. We're hoping to be able to go to a Sikh temple and do something similar. We'll also be going to probably another, my mind's going blank, but we'll go to some other places similarly as well.
Yeah, you're basically showing that Kentucky is more than one race,
yes,
one religion, that we are made up of a lot of different people.
Yes. Yeah. And that's, that's a misconception about Kentucky, right? Because one of the things that people think is that Kentucky is this very, very white, very Christian place, and that there's only one demographic here, and there are many other people here.
Hillbillies. Not that there are that's not what I meant. I meant
that's all that there is.
That perception. So like whenever we go to anywhere outside of the state of Kentucky, the first thing somebody says after they've asked you where you're from, and you say, "Oh, I'm from Lexington, Kentucky," and the first thing they say is, they look down at your feet, and then they say, literally, yeah, they look down at your feet, and then they say, "But you don't sound like it." And you know damn well what they're thinking in their head is, "Wow, you've got shoes on, and you don't sound like a hick." And
that is a huge misconception because of if you looked at what happened on Saturday Night Live last Saturday.
Exactly.
If you haven't watched it, they portrayed the folks from Union, Kentucky, kind of as like little noobs who just blindly follow this president that we have, even though many of their social kind of programs and things are being cut, they will continue to support this administration. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of a false narrative with when you look at the people that are represented here.
Right. And even the people who did vote for Trump and that live in Kentucky, and even the people who live in Eastern Kentucky, which is the place where much of that narrative comes from, that mythology of Kentucky comes from Eastern Kentucky, and it's such a flat narrative, right? It's this storyline that's been made up in the media, and it's not a true story of real people, and it leaves out so much of the culture. It leaves out so much of the realness of the people, and it's not a fair narrative either to the people who live there in Eastern Kentucky or to me, who's not from Eastern Kentucky. Right. I moved to Los Angeles after growing up in Kentucky many years ago, and I experienced that where I would say, "Oh yeah, I'm from Kentucky," and I literally would have people look at my feet as if I were standing, in a bar in LA, not wearing shoes because I had grown up in Kentucky, Well, and I've also had people ask me like, "Oh, well, did you, what'd you do for fun? Did you go to barn dances?" No, I've never in my lifetime been to a barn dance. I don't even know what I would do at a barn dance.
We can blame the federal government for a lot of that, because in the 60s, LBJ trotted out Appalachia as this is what poverty looks like.
Exactly.
And so
it
just keeps coming back to that this is what everybody in Kentucky must be like.
This poster child of poverty.
And I don't really think that that's stopped, because even on that SNL skit,
it's the same thing.
That's what I mean.
Back to, it's like they can't
If you're going to pick out somewhere in all of the United States where are you going to pick out the poor people who are going to follow like, little mindless sheep? Oh, it must be the coal country in Kentucky, which is in Boone County, which is not in coal country.
Not at all. Closer to Cincinnati.
There's no coal mining plants in Boone County.
Right.
Or anywhere, because they're not plants.
Oh, you're right. I get it now.
Yeah, I was like, did anybody else catch the fact that they're not coal mining plants?
I didn't get that before.
They're mines.
I know that Matt Jones of Kentucky Sports Radio really pointed that out in an article.
Wait, that was actually said?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
No, they called the coal mining plants.
Yeah.
I
They're
didn't
coal
know
mining.
that. I didn't catch that, I guess. I mean, I watched it, but I was so...
Like they go into a factory every day instead of a mine to get coal. Well, that's brilliant. Brilliant.
It's good. Sorry.
No,
I normally love SNL.
it brings out the whole idea of cultural elitists that have no clue but try to use
Right.
what's happening and to their advantage.
Like Bevan?
Right.
Oh, even though we agree with Saturday Night Live most of the time.
Oh, yeah.
But this one time, their writers kind of got it wrong.
Right. And how hard is it to find, well, I was about to say, how hard is it to find someone who's a liberal who actually would know about coal mining? But the fact is that most people don't know that there are liberals who actually know about coal mining.
Exactly.
Because sitting here in this room, there actually are people who know about coal mining who are liberals, because I can raise my hand. But you know what? Most of the world doesn't know that we exist, right?
Very true. We are that cultural unicorn.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so back to Together We Will.
Right, that's
now,
what we're talking about.
Together We Will is working with other organizations like Indivisible and like the new
New Kentucky Project.
New Kentucky Project and the Millennial Group, which is My Revolution,
Our
Revolution. And so everybody's starting to come together to work together on different events. I know that there's some work with the Kentucky Democratic Party, getting that rebuilt, because it sure has taken a beating the last few years, and they need all the help they can get.
Yeah. So, my personal perspective is that if we are going to change this country and change this state, which in my opinion, we have to do, it's not an option. We have to do it. We have to work together. So to have the force that's necessary to do that, we have to bring everyone to the table. And that requires all of us who are against the concept of tearing our country apart for personal gain coming to the table. Now that means we're not all going to agree with one another, right? Even just the four of us sitting in this room aren't going to agree on everything.
Very true.
There are going to be things that we disagree about. But I think we can agree that we shouldn't tear our country apart for personal gain, which is what I think is happening right now. And so if we look at the bigger picture of there is a central thing that we need to stop, then we can get to the table and say, okay, we need to stop that. But we got to agree enough to get to the table and get to organizing because of that. And you know what I have been realizing is that liberals have a really hard time getting along. And sometimes we have a hard time agreeing with each other and organizing.
I think it's a liberal spectrum. Would you not say? Like you have. Well, no, really.
No, I agree with you.
It's a liberal spectrum. We have everything from almost moderate, all the way down to burn it down.
Burn it to the ground.
Start over.
Yeah. No, it's a huge spectrum, and it covers a huge spectrum of thought and ideology. And asking all of those people to get at the table together is really hard because that's a massive amount of ideology to contain. That's a good way to put it. And that's hard. And so I'm not trying to make light of the fact that that's difficult. And that's difficult to get your arms around and to try to manage to get to the table, to sit down, to organize. I also think that we, in general, because we like ideas, I think, maybe is one of the reasons that liberals have a little bit of a hard time doing it. We like ideas. We like to think about things. We like to talk about things. That maybe we have a little bit of a harder time kind of moving together and just kind of agreeing to things and moving forward.
It seems to me like sometimes we just have a difficult time compromising in general because we're all so fixated on what our particular ideals are that we're unwilling to say we got to give a little to get a little.
Yeah. And that's, to me, I think right now we have such a big thing that we can focus on, that maybe that's the thing that can propel us forward, is my hope.
All right. Well, I'd like to thank you for coming on in. I hope you will stay and join us for some discussion with the news. This is Julie Martinez with Together We Will. And thank you for coming in.
Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure to be here.
Yay.
Your place for Kentucky Progressive Radio. It's Pod Bless Kentucky.
Okay, we're back. And it's time for the news. So let's hear what's happening in the news, Sonny.
All right, so this week in Hold My Beer, days number 81 through 84. And I just have my first question right off of the bat. Why the hell are we ending every week with a bang? It's my first question.
What else do you expect from Donald J. Trump?
All right, so anyways, let's go on. Let's start the week off on Tuesday because obviously he does not work Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Monday. So, starting on Tuesday with the one serious what the fuck moment. Here's the clip that screams, you just can't make this shit up.
World War II. You know, you had someone as despicable as Hitler who didn't even sink to using chemical weapons.
Sean Spicer, the press secretary of the president, who has probably have not sat in a history lesson in probably some 20-some year. Yeah.
Ever?
He needs a revision.
So, Spicy kind of opened up his mouth, inserted his foot.
Does he ever take his foot out?
Chewed on it and shit it back out. This is my... I mean...
Is it surgically placed in his mouth is my question.
Yes. I can honestly say I've never seen a news story get totally flipped over so fast.
Yeah, you didn't hear crap about it after a day or so. It was
right,
done.
Because he went on every national news network and was begging for forgiveness.
Okay. So, with one quick and swift statement, Spicy says that Hitler did not use gas on his own people. And then he tried to fix himself and fix his words and say that he didn't use them on people. He took them to, what was the word?
Holocaust centers.
Holocaust centers.
That pissed me off to no end.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, like it's a spa or a daycare. Hi, we're just going to go drop you off at the Holocaust Center. Have a good day, dear.
Right. So in one swoop, the questions are, should he be fired for it?
Yes.
Of course he should. Will he be fired for it?
No.
Probably not.
Probably not.
But that was our opening of this week, and that was the biggest what the fuck moment I think I have ever experienced.
Well, the press secretary is supposed to be relatively diplomatic, and the fact that this man cannot keep his shit together is just
diplomatic, slightly intelligent, maybe have, I don't know, some form of communication ability as well as a background in history. And not even far history. We're not even asking him for ancient history. We're asking him for less than 100 years. Less than.
And some filter.
Just a little bit of filter.
Yeah.
Which is kind of the main requirement of being the press secretary, right?
Right.
Is that you are able to filter your conversation.
And usually when a press secretary does something
That is
of-
what you actually do.
of this magnitude, they're gone the next day.
Yes.
However, because they are the voice of the president.
But this is in this instance, right? With this president, it's kind of appropriate. He is the voice of this president.
And he said, and the president has said nothing. Has anybody noticed that? Like, there has been zero quip.
Because he
from
doesn't
him.
care. This isn't important to him.
No.
It doesn't factor in his life and his...
What does he care?
In his trip to the golf course.
But he cared enough about the children being gassed that he dropped a bomb that really didn't do anything from what I understand. It was a
52 cruise missiles.
59.
59.
Right.
59 Tomahawks. And I had the number of how much each one of those costs around here somewhere. But that's beside the point.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care.
He doesn't care about what is said. If it doesn't factor into
How
It
much
didn't
money
hurt.
he can make.
exactly.
Right. Exactly. All right. So then, speaking of, I just can't say it, Trump, I can't put the first part in front of it. It's either, anyways. So on Wednesday, in an interview, did you ladies hear about this? In an interview with Fox, he's talking with, I'm not even sure who it is.
One of the blonde-headed bimbos
she
that
isn't
Fox
actually
News
even
puts
blonde.
on every day.
But she was bad. So here it is, and this is apparently when you are the president, you can have your cake and bomb Syria.
I was sitting at the table, we had finished dinner, we're now having dessert, and we had the most beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen, and President Xi was enjoying it. So what happens is I said, we've just launched 59 missiles heading to Iraq.
Wait, did he just say Iraq?
Yes, heading
Yes, he
toward
did.
Syria.
Oh, wait.
And I want you to know that.
He forgot what
He remembered
country.
what kind of cake he was eating.
The most beautiful
The
cake.
most beautiful cake ever. But he doesn't know what country he just bombed.
I'm loving watching the wheels spin on Dana.
Well, I'm just trying to go, how do you
It
go
was
from this
chocolate
is the
cake.
most wonderful cake in the world, let's go bomb
Iraq.
I mean Syria.
Right. So, but even can you imagine being the president of China? He is president, right? It's not prime minister. But sitting at this huge table in this amazingly luxurious dining room,
That probably looks like Liberace decorated it.
most likely
For
puked
sure.
gold. And the president of the U.S. leans over and says, "So, buddy, guess what I just did? I just dropped 59 Tomahawks on
Because I
Syria."
can.
Because I can.
Because I can.
Right.
Right? I mean, like,
Because that's what I can do.
and supposedly the president of China afterwards was just a little bit silent and then said, "Oh, okay," and went with it. I mean, he said, you have to do what you have to do kind of thing. But my point is, I think, that
The funniest story that came out just after this is after the president had actually talked about this delicious cake that he ate, the health inspector from down in Florida, I'm sorry, he wanted to visit the Mar-a-Lago kitchen that they have there, and they actually had to close the kitchen.
yeah, 13 infractions.
Had 13 infractions.
no, I
See, and that was part of what
But
was
that's
supposed to be good
delicious
news.
Cake.
That was supposed to be part of the good news. You just ruined that for me.
I mean,
I was sitting at the table, we had finished
Good
dinner,
job.
we're now having dessert,
The one piece of
and we
funny
had the most
news.
beautiful piece of chocolate cake that you've ever seen, and President Xi was enjoying it. So what happens is I said,
saw the
we've just
movie,
launched
The
59 missiles.
Oh, I did.
The most beautiful piece of chocolate cake. Maybe it was chocolate pie.
might have been.
Well, with those health violations, I'm going to sure
Those health violations.
that fecal matter may have entered into it at some point.
That explains why it was the most delicious piece of chocolate.
The president was enjoying it.
That's hysterical. That's a good thought. That makes me feel so much better about you
Okay.
blowing my good news of the week.
Well, there is some other good news, and I'll hold that off for a little bit.
Yeah, but that one was good. Anyways, also on Wednesday, Trump declared that the U.S. Russia ties, and we'll put this in quote, may be at an all-time low. Maybe. So this is where we're going to discuss some of the Trump-Russia ties and how deep this runs. So I don't know if any of you noticed, there was an article in The Guardian very recently that came out. It's a UK-based newspaper. And there are actually 6 countries that have shared information on contacts between Trump's inner circle and the Russians. So we can include Germany, Estonia, Poland, Australia. It actually includes the U.S., but it also has UK, Canada, and New Zealand. And they've been relaying all of this material starting in, what year? 2015.
Yep.
Wow.
Yep.
2015. So the Guardian and the FBI and the CIA, well, so the Guardian is saying that the FBI and the CIA were slow to appreciate the extensive nature of the contacts between the Trump team, meaning, I would assume, meaning his whole entire campaign, not just who he's put into place now.
And he's had some questionable figures. I know that
Right.
Carter Page is being investigated. And
Yeah, he's actually registered as a foreign agent
Right.
for Russia. Manafort is a foreign agent for
the
Ukraine.
Right.
right? But we don't know if there's others. I mean, like, honestly, I'm assuming that it goes all over. But there's been extensive contacts between the Trump team and Moscow ahead of the election. The reasoning that some of it hasn't been published is that, in part, it's due to a U.S. law that prohibits U.S. agencies from examining the private communications of American citizens without warrants. They're trained not to release this information according to the sources. The sources are all being kept quiet, understandably.
Okay.
Right.
Russians die when they don't keep it quiet.
Boy, that's no lie.
But the message was basically, watch out, there's something not right. That's one article, or that's one quote. You know, this message that came out that there's something not right, and that was started in 2015.
You just know at some agency there's a great big whiteboard with all of these people's pictures and strings and thumbtacks that is connecting them all. You
Like
know,
an ancient flow chart on a whiteboard, right?
Yeah.
Right.
Right. And I mean, some of it sounds frustrating on one level, right? I mean, although on the other level, we don't really want them just reading all of our stuff without warrants.
Understandable.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Because, you know, you're reading a UK publication, The Guardian, that's saying, you know, U.S. laws that won't allow them to read things without warrants. It makes it sound like it's kind of awful. As a U.S.
it also makes you
citizen,
wonder what
I'm
the
like, yeah, I
UK
don't
law
really
is.
want them to read my stuff without a warrant. But at the same time, I also want us all as Americans to be going, what the hell? Hey, let's pay attention now. Okay, so we were slow because we like to be careful about these things. But now, let's make a big deal out of this.
Well, and I think part of my bigger question is, and obviously, you know, we don't know, we can't solve the world's problems sitting in here, but what my bigger question in this particular quote is, why, if the FBI was informed by 6 countries, not including the U.S., prior to the election, why did they allow the election to go through? At what point did they say, Trump, Russia, nah, it's okay?
Well, and it begs the question to me, why the focus on Hillary's emails?
That's what I was going to say.
Why the letter
But
right before the
so isn't
election?
that's part of the actual Russian plan, though, was to get
Right.
Trump.
But why did the FBI director send the letter about the emails right before the election, which we know bumped somehow the polls?
Right.
Oh, it did. You watched.
could-
it.
Absolutely.
You actually watched the.
Right. Where's the what's going on there? What's going on there? And now what I'm seeing, what I was seeing today, and I didn't have time to dig more deeply into the articles I was seeing, is now Giuliani's come forward and was begging a deal.
I saw that, but there's
got turned down.
Yet. But there's nothing more than
That's
he
all
was
I
begging
could...
for a deal,
right?
And it just has stopped there, with the exception of they're saying absolutely not. You do not get a deal either.
I think it was a case of it's better to beg forgiveness than ask permission. And so they wanted to see what they could get away with.
Who the hell is going to give them permission?
No, I just, when I say that, it means they were going to try to see what they could get away with.
Well, they got away with a lot.
A lot. Well, and I think this is a case now is where we're working
with the Russians.
backwards.
We'll let you play with the Ukrainians, and let's see what they...
Yeah.
But Hillary can't use
But we're going to take her email.
an email. I mean...
Well, and now we're forced to work backwards. We're forced to,
right,
kind of peel back the layers and see where it all started and, how bad is this? I mean, we all know it's bad, but we keep getting a drab here, what's the whole? What's the sum of the parts?
And you know what? That's an excellent segue into this quote that is it's in The Guardian. It is not... it's still a respected paper.
Right. And I was going to say, The Guardian it's a left-leaning, but a respected newspaper in the UK.
Right. And as far as, if we're going to talk as close to unbiased as possible, because I think it's out of the U.S., they have a different, look, a different light. However, there is this quote that I pulled out, and it comes from the very bottom of the article. It's the very last paragraph in this article, and it actually is the one, well, let me read it and we discuss, right? So at the very bottom, one source, this is in quotes, one source suggested the official investigation was making progress. They now have specific, concrete, and corroborative evidence of collusion, the source said. This is between people in the Trump campaign and agents of Russian influence relating to the use of hacked material. Specific and concrete evidence. And it's just buried down in there. It's just, meh, here is this little blurb.
Definitely something we're going to have to keep an eye on.
I would like to know more about that.
Yeah.
So
what is it?
But there's nothing else. I mean,
Who has it?
It's just like...
Where is it?
Well, and they they're protecting their sources,
right,
which is what they have to do. But it's just thrown out there. There's nothing. Even if you Google this, there's nothing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, they were going to get him in power by any means necessary, I think, and they got him there, and now they know that he's there. Once he's there, he's harder to get away. And it's going to take convincing, our elected officials that they have to do something about it. And right now, they're all so far up Trump's ass that it doesn't matter. I mean, it's going to...
At least the right side is.
Well, that's what I mean. I was going to say,
McConnell.
but at this point, what the hell is it going to...
second.
Well, what the hell is it going to take? What the hell is it going to take for them to say, I'm done with this?
And you're right, in a way, when you said McConnell, because, and this may run into our conspiracy theories and how deep does this go. When she said McConnell, she actually has a point. He has this wife that is tied. She's a huge heiress to a Chinese shipping company. She got a cabinet spot right off of the bat.
Right.
She's had one previously, correct?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah. And she sucked at it.
Yeah,
and she's going to suck at
Labor, and many Republican friends that I have complained about her then.
She sucked.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. That's the long and the short of it.
And she may be a Chinese heiress, but I know there's some shady stuff that's gone on with her father's company in China, too. So there's some...
Exactly.
Yeah.
I mean, really, so how deep it goes, McConnell knew. I mean, that came out...
Well, we believe that he knew.
Well, no, remember, he was one of the ones in some...
And he did announce that there was some type of...
Briefing,
but it wasn't... In his words, it wasn't important. It wasn't enough to warrant
depends
an
on
investigation.
what you consider important.
Right.
How much you're being paid and what you stand to lose. These people are going to be facing treason charges. And the last I checked, treason charges are not pretty charges to have.
Unless you can
placed
have a
against you.
president to expunge your
Commute them.
record or give
Unless
them
your
a pardon.
president is also the one committing treason.
Well, and the thing is that most people assume that when you commit treason, you're put to death. That's not necessarily true.
No, I want him imprisoned. I picture him in an orange jumpsuit where it clashes with his face color. It just kind of does me.
I just have
a
this
lot of
feeling
good.
that a disgraced president of the United States probably isn't going to be in an orange jumpsuit.
Very much.
Okay, so we got to move on. I'm being told. The one more thing that we really need to cover is North Korea. So North Korea, we don't have a sound clip for it because it's all in Korean, which is a great story. I will tell this sometime. But aside from that, so the North Korean representative, please, I'm not going to slaughter names. He is saying that Trump's tweets are adding to the fuel a vicious cycle. Tensions in North Korea, actually the Korean Peninsula. Reckless military aggression.
That the Supreme Leader
Is going to do the test, come hell or high water, if he so damn well chooses. And Trump is saying, well, we're going to do a preemptive strike. So basically, it's a pissing match.
Right.
Who's going to strike first? And I actually heard rumors that Japan is calling their foreign nationals home.
Right. What's leading to this idea that they're going to actually have this this nuclear test on cruise missiles is the Supreme Leader's birthday actually happens to be this weekend.
And what better way to
perfect.
celebrate
What
his
a
birthday?
bang for a birthday.
And North Korea is known for showing their military might during his birthday celebration. And there would, in their eyes, there's no better time to show something off like this. And so the President of the United States is saying, hey, you will not have this or there will be consequences on Twitter.
But we have never had a good relationship with North Korea.
Didn't he tell China that they had to,
Well, he was under the impression that China could just tell them to stop it.
Yeah.
Stop it. As
Right.
if they were a little small dog, and the president of China had to assure them that that was not the way that it all worked.
And, I mean, China does have some influence.
They do have some influence, but it's not North Korea is not anybody's lapdog.
Right.
Obviously, they're a little bit
Right.
crazier
they're going to
than
do
that.
whatever they want.
Right. There's economic influence. They do have influence there, but it's not that easy of a understanding. And that's part of the problem is that Trump has this very simplistic idea of how international relations work. You do what I tell you to do, or I'm going to bomb the hell out of you,
And he's
or I'm
actually
going to
now
tell China to
quoted-
bomb the hell out of you.
He's actually now quoted on this again, like after the healthcare thing where he said, it's harder than I thought it was. He did it again with this diplomacy thing.
Right.
He has no concept of what he's doing.
Well, what's really funny is Kim Jong-un, he's watching Donald Trump and everything that Donald Trump has done, and to the point of all the lavish lifestyle and the partying and going off on vacations. And he sees this and he's emulating it.
Right.
So he's following on Twitter. He's doing all these things.
It's called
But
inbreeding.
the way this came out and how it got so much attention because of North Korea being such a secluded area, they were celebrating the opening of a new high-rise in Pyongyang, and they found this perfect time because you had all this Western journalists there that they were able to say, okay, this is what the Supreme Leader has said, and if he feels that this is an important message to put out there, he put it out in front of his whole country on that day. And there are many journalists who talked about that day about how silent before this discussion, like the whole country and the whole town of Pyongyang actually came for this press conference. and were dead silent for 30 to 40 minutes before, dead silent, couldn't hear anything, they waiting on the bated breath of what the Supreme Leader had to say.
I wish my children were that quiet.
Well, they have no concept of the outside world. I mean, he basically has his little fiefdom, and everything is so, so monitored there and so restricted that
Controlled.
Yeah.
Basically,
Yeah.
Interesting. A world we don't know, we don't understand. It's all good. All right, so one last bit on the shit that happens in this day and age. We dropped a MOAB. No, not the mother of all bombs, but the massive ordnance air blast bomb, 21,000 pounds. And they were hoping that there would be, there's extensive tunnels in Afghanistan in a northern province. They dropped this bomb that I understand with a mile radius blast. It has where it would break your eardrums, basically.
Correct.
The force is 11 tons of TNT is the approximate, and we dropped it, hoping for 600 militants, I guess, 600 to 800 ISIS fighters in Afghanistan, and they thought most of them were located in those caves. Too bad. 36.
Yeah, 36.
Early March, we've been conducting offensive operations into southern Nangarhar. However, this was the first time that we encountered an extensive obstacle to our progress that was constituted by the belts of IEDs, the presence of tunnels and caves, and therefore this was the appropriate weapon to use at this time to reduce that obstacle to enable us to continue with our offensive operation into southern Nangarhar. So that is all there is to the timing. It was the right time to use it tactically against the right target on the battlefield, and it's enabled us to resume our offensive operation to the south.
Wow. How much did one of those cost?
So
I know it's the most expensive military weapon ever used.
Kind of depends on how you want to price it, okay? So it was $314 million to develop this bomb, and then I believe they said per unit, I think Dana's looking it up for me, I believe they said per unit is $16 million.
I think
We
that's
don't
what
know
I saw.
how many we have, but when you think about it in cost perspective, right, so it cost us $314 million, I can't even hardly say this, dollars just to pump out this one.
For this one time, because we've
this
used it
one
once.
Time.
This had
This
never
one
been
bombing.
used
This
ever
one
before.
bombing,
Right.
it's never been used, and like I said, we don't know how many we have, so it very well could have been
The only one.
the only one.
That's not
which
realistic,
would
but-
make it 314
Right.
million.
Well-
Otherwise, unit price.
No, the Air Force said on Friday that it didn't cost $314 million or $16 million each, but $170,000 a unit. So,
That's a
very-
huge difference from what CNN and the rest of them are reporting.
Right. It says they don't have a standard procurement cost associated with them, but that is what...
So that could be a raw material cost,
Right,
perhaps,
right,
versus
right. But that's what the Air
development
Force
labor
said
cost.
on Friday.
Development with labor.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Well, and you considering this is the first one we've ever dropped, the $16 or $314 million at this point, that one does cost this much because we haven't used any others. So one, it doesn't matter if we've got, 2,000 of them sitting somewhere in a warehouse. If we haven't used them, the cost of it at all is whatever.
But, I have a hard time buying what we just heard the general say, right?
Right.
Oh, this all there is to this timing is this is the first time we've happened to run into this particular thing, blah, blah, blah. We've known those tunnels were there for 30
years?
freaking years.
Right.
Those tunnels have been there forever. We've known about those tunnels for a
When
long,
the Afghans fought the
long,
Soviets, those tunnels
long,
were there.
exactly. You can't tell me that dropping the biggest bomb we have that's not a nuclear weapon
Made a difference.
right before we decide, not we, because it's not me, before Trump decides to have a pissing match with North Korea. Come on.
Yeah.
Come on.
Oh, yeah.
The timing
So we
was
bomb
coincidental.
That was the
Syria.
perfect timing, I guess.
We bomb Afghanistan, and now we're going to have a pissing match with North Korea. There's something else going on, right? I don't know what it is. Right?
Penis envy, maybe, like you shake your penis saying
I don't
mine's
know if
bigger
it's
than yours.
distraction for the Russian ties.
Totally.
I don't know. There's so much at play that we don't know about, right? There's so much going on that we just don't know about.
And according to officials, and they spoke totally anonymously, again, because they're not actually authorized to speak publicly on the matter, I would assume it's classified. Because this bomb is so big, why did we have to use it? Did Trump request it to be used as part of his distract and, whatever? He didn't actually have to authorize it. This general,
Right.
John Nicholson, has a standing authority.
Right, because
to
he's
use
stepped
this bomb.
back. Trump has stepped back from having to authorize
Bullshit.
the Pentagon. Well, he has. They have said that because he has given them more leeway. That doesn't mean he doesn't have the ability to authorize it if he wants to. But he has stepped back from having to authorize it if he wants. He's given them more capacity to authorize more missions if he wants to. And he's given them more leeway,
So
which
has
has
he
led to more
given-
civilian deaths as well.
So has he given the Vinson Strike Group that has moved into the whichever sea over by Japan and North Korea in that area, because it's in between Japan and the Korea Peninsula, do they have the same standing fire when ready?
I don't know.
It kind of reminds me, we're all mothers. You're a father. It kind of reminds me of when you give your kids a chore list and say, okay, you go do that. I trust you to go take care of those things. And then you come back to find out they've been playing video games all day and you lose your shit. Because that's what I think he's going to do. He's letting them do because he said, that's not important for me to focus on. Y'all go do your thing. And when it comes back and bites him in the ass, because he's ultimately responsible. Because today he said it was his army.
His military.
Yeah. Not
I
the United
authorized
States. My military. And so I don't know. Sometimes I wonder, this is why this guy probably sleeps so damn well, because he's letting everybody else.
Because he has no conscience.
Well, yeah. And the thing is that I still don't think he understands that he's ultimately responsible. He's going to fire whoever he can fire and blame whoever he can blame. But us as a nation is going to hold him ultimately responsible.
Mm-hmm. And I don't know, I don't know if we are giving him too much benefit of the doubt and making him too Machiavellian. Like maybe I am giving him more,
could be,
more
credit,
more credit than is actually due.
That will probably never be said again.
It's possible.
Okay, with that said, if you ever wanted a great meal, there's no better place to go than to Blue Apron. Blue Apron will provide a great meal at a low cost. You can actually have meals like spicy chicken sandwiches with Alabama white sauce and roasted red sweet potatoes, or a cumin Sichuan shrimp stir fry, all for the low price. If you ever want to take a chance and have some of the great Blue Apron products, all you have to do is go to podblesskentucky.com and click on the link to get your $30 coupon, and we'll be right back. We'll be talking about some of the great news, also with our calendar for the week of the things that will be going on.
From Studio 1A in Snowflake Village, you're listening to Pod Bless Kentucky.
Taking a look at the calendar this week, we start off on Monday for the Together We Will Monday Night for Rights. It will be at 5 p.m. this week. They will be at the Downtown Library constructing signs for the Science March. Also, on Tuesday, the Bernie Sanders rally at the Palace Theater in Louisville starts at 7 p.m. The Political Education Group of the SURJ will be having a webinar on interrupting patterns of white feminism at 8 p.m. On Thursday, there will be at 12 o'clock, there will be the presenting by the Attorney Generals about representing protesters and what is available, and that's at noon at the Fayette County Circuit Court Clerk. Also on Thursday, the Kentuckians for the Commonwealth will be having their monthly meeting, which happens every third Thursday of every month at the Episcopal Mission House on 4th Street in Martin Luther King. That's at 7 p.m. And then on Saturday, we have the March for Science, which will be taking place at 1 p.m. at the courthouse. Hope you'll come on out there and help us protest funding cuts on science, as well as informing people how important science is to everyone. We look forward to seeing you at these great events this week and hope you have a great week. Well, that does it for the show this week. Thank you very much for our wonderful group that we have here. I'd like to thank Sunny. I'd like to thank Dana. And most of all, I'd like to thank Julie Martinez for coming on in and speaking with us today. All right, that does it for our show this week. Well, I'm going to take you out with a little bit of Van Halen.
Until we meet again. Happy trails to you. Keep smiling until then.
Who cares about the clouds when we're together? Just sing a song and think about sunny weather.
Happy trails to you till we meet again.